All right.
And hi, everybody. Happy Wednesday to you. It is 2 o'clock in the Mountain Time Zone, so it's time for Healthy You, hashtag What's Your Path? And we're here today to focus on the healthy spirit side of what is Healthy You. We've got Andrea with us. It's going to be a fantastic conversation. And normally we'd have a fantastic wingman, Krista, from across the pond, but she's having some internet connections, mishy-mashy things going on, so she may pop in and may pop out, and we'll try to say hi to her as we go. And everybody out there watching, Twitter folks, hashtag What's Your Path, and Facebook folks, and YouTube folks, and everybody else, but we will get right into the conversation. Andrea came across my radar, a couple of months ago or so, and when I opened up her profile page, if you haven't done it yet, you got to go look at that image. It's beautiful, and she defines forgiveness as being able. I wrote it down so I wouldn't miss the quote because I have it on my dream board. Allowing yourself to fully see the beauty in the moment. And I just fell in love with her instantly. Girl crush, as we say out here on the Plus. So I'm going to let Andrea start and tell us who she is and how she started on a path to spirituality.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that introduction, Tracy, and thanks everyone for having me on the Healthy You show. Yeah, I guess it's been a couple months that we've been in contact and really just sort of started connecting between sharing stories and really, finding our paths together. So it's been quite interesting. As far as how I started, my past is definitely something that has shaped me, but it hasn't defined me. So when I really start thinking about what I went through, for anyone who doesn't know, I was kidnapped at 2.5 years old, and I was abused for over a decade. And of course, all the stuff that goes along with that. Like you said about forgiveness, Tracy, really having to find that peace to get me through the journey. And of course, when this stuff was going on, I had no idea. I didn't have any tools. I didn't deal with it until I was 24 years old. That was the first time I ever actually spoke about being abused. So even though it had actually stopped from that particular family member for 10 years, I still held all of that inside and really just thought, if I just suppress this, I never talk about it, I'll never have to deal with it. And that is an incredibly, really just not a healthy way to deal with it at all. It ends up being trapped in your system in many different ways. So it's trapped at your cellular level. It's trapped in your, you get your aches and pains. You get your bizarre behaviors, so to speak. You cry and you get angry and things that shouldn't really be prompted by what's going on around you. And it's all a matter of, you've kept it inside of you and you haven't dealt with it. So it wasn't until I dealt with it when I was 24 and actually spoke about it for the first time that I was able to move into healing. And so that's when the healing journey began.
What prompted you to start talking about it, Andrea? I mean, was there just, I'm tired of being in this pain? Was there a catalyst to get you to start opening up and start talking about it? Did somebody help you? Tell us a little bit about how you started.
For sure. So it's a combination of everything that you've just said. So I have been very blessed to have some beautiful men in my life, and one of those men was my first husband, who is still my best friend. And he was the catalyst for getting me to speak about it, because I wanted to be in a healthy relationship with him, and I didn't know what that looked like because I'd not had any role models, and I didn't know how to do it because I was hurting. So I spoke about it with him. That was the first time I spoke about it. And to even start that conversation was, where do you actually start when you've buried it for so long and you've hidden it from everyone? And, even though they know something's wrong, they don't know what it is. So he really shared that space and opened it up for me to really talk about it. And from there, he was actually the one who got me into counseling. And so I went into counseling for 6 months. And what I learned through traditional counseling was that I could learn coping mechanisms to deal with the trauma, but I would never be healed. That's basically where they left me. So I realized that there was way more to life than just coping. And it really was like, you get through the steps, you go through their program, and you get to a point where, yes, you're definitely better off than you were because you can cope with some of the stuff, and you're able to move through life a little more easily. But at the same time, they never really encouraged the belief that you would fully heal and actually, shine your light in the world in this amazing, incredible way. It was more like you're damaged goods and you can do the best you can. So for me, that was another catalyst to move on.
That's amazing. At 24, now 24 and a half, or maybe you've already turned 25 because you're 6 months in conventional therapy, for you to realize that coping wasn't enough for you.
Yeah.
And because most of us, me included, coping is sometimes the best we can hope for in situations. And for you to be able to see beyond the coping, where did you go next to find more healing?
Yeah, so and like you said, we're brought up to, society even reinforces that coping is the best we can do. And I think in some moments, yes, it is. I mean, it's better than not coping, right? It was better than having it all buried, so for sure. But I knew intrinsically that there was more to life. There was more joy. There was more happiness. There was more of everything to be found. So what I did was I left everything behind, and I went over to Nepal and was doing some missions work there with a group. And it was the start of my spiritual journey, my really, truly, really going in deep within myself and actually acknowledging that I was on a spiritual path, not just, going through religion and things like that, which I've already had been through. And that was part of the healing process as well. Religion can be a great stepping stone for, finding love and finding forgiveness and things like that. So when I went over there, I had my first shamanic breathwork meditation experience, and I went into that experience, and I was with a group of people. We were there to be working with the other people there, and something told me to close my eyes and actually become a participant of the experience. So I did that, and I went through it, and when I left that environment and came out and reconnected with my group again, they literally said that they did not recognize me, period, because I was so changed. Just in that, 15, 20 minutes that I was, maybe half an hour that I was in there, and I was so changed and so different looking that they could not recognize me.
Because you're, I think we all know the word aura.
Yes.
We all know the word glowing from within, beauty from within, spirit coming through, but did you just release all of this pain and energy from the trauma of your past in that shamanic space, and so you came out without it? Or do you think you came out with an understanding of how to heal? Because that's amazing for your whole entire body structure and light and glow to change so much people recognize it.
Yes, yeah. So it was pieces of both of those things. So what happened was, when I'd left traditional counseling, I still had the shame piece. So that was something I could not get rid of, no matter how many coping tools they gave me. I still felt like that somehow at 2.5 years old, I was responsible for being kidnapped. I was responsible for being abused. I still held all that stuff inside of me, that some way I was to blame. So when I went through that experience, I had this visual, and for me, Jesus and Mary are my spirit guides in quite a few of the work that I do. And so in this instance, it was Jesus who sat down with me, and it was at this waterfall, and it was just this visually purifying experience where, he sat down with me to have lunch, and I thought to myself, well, if Jesus can sit down with me, then anyone on earth can sit down with me. And it was just this immediate cleansing of the shame that just dropped off of me in that moment. And that really freed me and opened me up to more healing.
Speechless. That is so beautiful to have that vision, to have that. We sometimes belittle aha moments, and
yes.
and we don't really take into our presence the power of an aha moment. We're like, aha, that was fantastic, and we keep going on our path. So So you're out of this. You had this moment. Your mind changed to everybody can sit down. Was there a sense of I'm now worthy
Yes.
in that feeling? Tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah, so another, if you're on my website, of course, you'll see lots of quotes about worthiness and what that truly means. And again, that was a piece of it. So the shame, of course, is just us denying our inherent worthiness. And we're all born worthy. We are absolutely worthy. We don't have to do anything. We just simply exist, and that is where our worthiness is. And when you go through traumatic events, of course, it's reinforced in so many different ways that you're not worthy. And so that was the piece that, the shame piece was just a piece of unworthiness. And, so that was just the beginning of excavating that unworthiness. I went through basically a 15-year journey now of, getting rid of these bits and pieces and really excavating more and going, okay, where else am I holding on to something that doesn't serve me? And really it comes down to that suffering piece that I talked about when we were organizing this hangout. And suffering truly is optional. It does show you how to grow. There's a growth component to it. So if I didn't know suffering, I wouldn't know true joy because I couldn't see, the complete opposite of it. So yes, there's a piece of it. And maybe just by telling you a little story, I can sort of show you what that means. So there was a woman that I was working with, and she got DUI, so which means, her license was pulled for 3 months. She lost her car. It was repoed for 3 months as well. And I sat down with her and was having a chat with her about the suffering piece because she was doing, this was just a symptom of a much larger problem. So she was punishing herself, and trying and hoping to get caught to really, she needed some sort of intervention to help her be the catalyst for growth. So when we were having this discussion, we sat down, my husband and I sat down with her and said, do you think you've suffered enough? Are you done suffering? Are you done, beating yourself up and causing your own pain, essentially? And she said, yes, I am. And so we thought, great, here's a perfect opportunity. You now have 3 months to essentially just work on yourself because you can't drive anywhere, you can't go anywhere. You've got this amazing opportunity that we rarely get. And she didn't have to work, and all these things were in her favor to really do this deep growth. And what happened, though, shortly after that is she decided she was going to fight the DUI. And so instead of pouring all that energy into her own growth and deciding she'd suffered enough, she started pouring all the energy into fighting the DUI and wanting her license back and going through. So you can see the shift. So you have to make the decision that you have suffered enough. And until you yourself make that decision, you will continue to suffer. It really comes down to choice.
Yes. We've all heard the quote, we're maybe desensitized to it, that pain is inevitable, suffering is optional, and sitting down with ourselves and with the story that you told, God doing for us what we can't do for ourselves, He gave her a DUI to keep her still safe in her path and the option to move out, and she chose a different way. My God is a very funny person. He's just going to teach me those lessons again and again until I make the choice that is right for me and who I was born to meant to be. So here you are now. You've gone through this 15-year journey. You're now helping others. Is the first question you ask people who come to you for help, do you always start from a place of suffering? Or are there other things, your kind of moniker is shortcut to spirituality. Is that the first question to get to the shortcut? And before you answer, I'm just going to do some shout outs. We have so many people in the room that are happy to be here. Wayne and Katrina and Kristen, who is helping from the outside since her internet's booky on the inside. Cheryl Deuce is out there talking to us, and Cheryl has a big question. So let me get my little eyeball going and pin that. Do you think? Oh wait, let me put the actual eyeball on. Do you think that there are times when you are holding on to something but don't realize it? So how do you achieve that shift in perception? I ask this because I hold on to the weirdest things that happen at work, where I felt energy go through my head and all of it.
Yeah, it's a great question because, of course, so much of what we're dealing with is actually subconscious. So it's a great question to ask, Cheryl, because honestly, we don't recognize the unconscious part of our behavior. We only recognize the conscious acts. So, for instance, when I hadn't dealt with any of the stuff that I'd been through, I would get angry at, the tiniest little thing would set me off in this rage because I was so angry about the other stuff, but I wasn't allowed to express it. So I used these little experiences to, but I would never address that that anger actually belonged to the events of the past. I would address it to whatever I was going through in that moment. And it was completely inappropriate and overblown to the circumstance. But as far as I was concerned, of course, it was justified, and I didn't understand that subconscious piece. So through the work that I do, of course, we excavate that subconscious. We actually bring it up to the surface so that you can actually deal with it, what the actual event or issue is that you have.
Wow. Wow. So you get the people that you're helping to get into not the surface explosions of emotion, down into the deeper. And now, my original question was, is the first question you asked them, are you what's your first question? The first step with everybody.
Yeah, so and I'll talk a little bit about, I'll just actually define shortcut first because that make it a little easier, because of course there's so much controversy over shortcuts, and I've been slammed about, oh sure, it's a shortcut to your wallet, or you know what I mean, like people just have these judgments about there's no such thing as a shortcut. The truth of the shortcut is that you're actually, it's like if you were going on a trip and you chose a guide instead of going to a place where you're completely unfamiliar with the territory and deciding to, cross the entire landscape on your own. So the shortcut portion is actually asking a guide to assist you across that landscape and support you in space, giving you that space to actually do the work, and then helping you integrate the actual process. So that's what the shortcut piece is all about. And the first question that I ask people who come to me is, are you willing to change? Because you have to be willing. I've had so many people in the past, before I got really clear on who I served, that would come to me and they would complain about their life, and they would, whine about this and victim that, and, love to their process and everything. And I would start to pour all this energy into them and help them. Oh, here's some tools. You can use this. You can do this. You can go, that. And what I came to realize is they didn't actually want to change. What they wanted is they wanted to complain and be reassured. They wanted to have that. It was serving them in some way. It was like a woman who says, oh, I look so fat in this outfit, and what she really wants to hear is, no, you look beautiful, you're gorgeous, all these things. But she's, instead of just accepting that and opening herself up to have that happen organically, she's using a negative to try and get some feedback to actually positively reinforce her. So it's these little games that we play.
Yes, and you're, I don't know about the audience, but you're punching some nerves for me. I'm on a path. I'm way far down my path, but not near where I want to go. But I'm letting God, when there's a saying that I live by, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And there could be a reason that you've gotten into my path, because these next steps, and this is what we're trying to do, with Healthy You. But asking for the willingness, being ready to get out of the comfort zone of who they are, be it the victim role or all of the other things that, the games that we play in our head for reassurance, and being willing to make the change to their next step on the path. And I think that goes back to your suffering. Suffering is just a choice. I'm currently reading a book, The Untethered Soul, and sitting in the seat of self and making the choices and watching the thoughts go by, as opposed to letting them take over my life and control my thoughts and things like that. So let's I'm going to do 2 questions, and then we're going to hear some more of your story. Katrina out there says, oh, that's right, I need to hit the eyeball. See, I need my wingman. I miss you. um, so Katrina says, if you ask and really answer the deep questions honestly, the path to healing can become extremely powerful and beautiful.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's
Totally.
a matter of asking yourselves the questions and being ready for the answer, right?
Yeah, and it's even about this is where the judgment piece really comes in. So I've gone into this deep work with an intention of, whatever it may be in the moment that I'm doing this specific work on. The answer doesn't necessarily come to me the way I envision it when I ask for the intention that I set. So when I release complete judgment on what it looks like, however it shows up in my life, and accept it exactly as it is, that's when you're truly free. When you can release judgment about, other people, about yourself, and there's an interesting game that we play too, which is we judge ourselves through other people's eyes. So we could be doing something and we could be thinking, oh, so-and-so probably thinks this about me, or they're probably thinking this or watching me, or it's a little trick that our minds play to judge ourselves by using someone else. And then what happens is we attach, what we're thinking to that person, and we could have anger at them or whatever, and they're not even thinking any of those things. So we're very deceptive within ourselves at many opportunities.
Now, we were talking about it on an HOA earlier, judging our insides with your outsides.
Yeah.
It's never a good path. And
no.
Wayne's got a specific question for you, and for some reason it's flipping around, and oh no, there it went. It went right. Okay. Wingman, I miss you again. So, Andrea, do some people automatically not recognize suffering and inherently are not affected?
So
that's an interesting question.
Yeah, it is. So I'm wondering if Wayne, and I'll try to answer it maybe in two ways, because there are, if you're asking if people don't recognize it as, a beautiful gift in this world that they've come here and they don't have to suffer, of course that is definitely one of the infinite possibilities that are available to us. I don't know anyone who's ever come into this world born absolutely deliriously happy and have gone through their entire life without any suffering, because when you think about it, we're all going to lose someone that we love. Death is inevitable as part of our process, and of course I believe death is just another doorway, so it's not this big ending of things, it's another beginning. So I'm not affected so much in that way, but we're going to have our hearts broken. We are going to watch people that we love suffer, and we could take that on. So I don't think that there's anyone that I've ever met who's never suffered. And so yeah, we would all be affected to some degree.
It's a very good answer. So here we are on our path. We've gone through this journey. We're now to the point of helping others. We have defined our shortcut, which is really the willingness and getting ourselves to the question of, are you ready? Are you willing? Let's take the next step. So where do you see this going for you? This spiritual journey, where do you want to go next on it, Andrea?
Yeah, thank you for that question. It's such a beautiful process, and I don't ever want to be done with it because it's such a constant growing activity. The more that I help people, the more that I grow. So what's really interesting for me is I used to do one-on-one life coaching and just do the shortcut coaching, which was 15 minutes, and we'll deal with whatever it is that's in your life right now that's the biggest challenge, and we'll deal with that and set you on your way. And I was coming up with a lot of people during that time who really started saying things to me like, oh, you're the key, and I'm going, okay, no. So obviously the reclaiming the power part wasn't coming through, because I am merely a guide. That's all I am here to do is literally guide you to reclaim your own power so that you can make your own choices and you can grow in that way. So I started putting together the course a little differently. And what I ended up doing was I basically made a 1-month preparation period. So it's no different than, okay, you're going on that trip again. You've chosen your guide. Now, what do you need to bring on that trip? So for me, obviously, it's not, a tent and things like that, but we're talking about breath awareness. We're talking about meditative experience. We're talking about, deep inner stuff that sets the stage for the actual intensive work that you're going to do. And then that intensive work is done on a weekend. And you're in supported, beautiful, amazing space. And that's where we really bring all of that subconscious stuff up to the surface so that it can be dealt with. And then following that, there's a 1-month supportive integration process. So really it's about having the 3 pieces. You get prepared for the journey, you take the journey, and then you learn how to integrate that journey into your everyday life, because without all 3 of those pieces, it really wasn't functioning, and people would come back. And for me, I don't want to hold your hand for the rest of your life. I want the best and most empowered you that you can be, and then you can go into the world and you can change it and you can help people, and really just keeping this continual, expression of help and love and truth seekers going, and really not about it being about me at all. I'm a humble servant of the work that I do, and I'm so blessed to, to have learned everything that I chose to learn in this lifetime in order to help others grow.
Do you have a, I guess I want to say a forgiveness. Do you have a forgiveness for what happened to you when you were I can't even say child, you were basically an infant. I don't know, maybe toddler is the appropriate word, but you were a child when this happened to you. But
Yes.
out of that darkness came all of this light. Do you think you would have taken the same path had that suffering not happened to you?
It's interesting because I used to play the what if game. What if I wasn't kidnapped? What if I wasn't abused? I would have been this perfect, happy, all these things that we make up in our minds. I don't ever play the what if game anymore. I accept and have forgiven everything. And when I look at what happened, it's not that it happened to me, it happened for me. Every single piece of this journey, no matter how, when you're looking from the outside and you hear, oh my God, she was kidnapped at 2.5 years old, she was raped before her 3rd birthday, that is so tragic and that is so awful. But for me, looking at it from a point of, wow, the amazing amount of growth I had to do in order to stand in my power now and stand in my light and help other people heal, every single piece of it was worth it to me. Every single piece. There's nothing to forgive because I recognize that it was all precisely meant to be exactly how it is. And again, that's releasing judgment. If we just accept that everything that's ever happened perfectly, there's nothing to judge. There's no suffering, there's no attachment, there's no pain, there's nothing. It's just, really just joy. That's all that's left.
That is something I say every day when I wake up. I try to make it my first thought. Sometimes it's not, but I try to make it my first thought is, thank you for waking me up this morning. What are we going to do today? And bring my spirit and bring my gratitude. And at the end of my day, I try to look back and say, thank you for what you've given me today. Obviously, today is going to be a huge journal entry on gratitude for just being here and being able to share your incredible inspiration. For those of us who are out there walking a path, we don't want to judge our inside with your outsides, but we want to know that there is a place we can get to, and everything that has happened to us in our lifetime is absolutely a gift that was meant to be.
Yes.
It was just meant to be. And before we do our hellos and goodbyes, I want to get to Wayne's comment that I flagged it a while ago. The stream is going a little crazy. Everybody's talking. Everybody's just so excited. Oh, I moved off my eyeball. I was always raised to consciously not tell yourself a story. So this is right up his alley. And yeah, the lies we tell ourselves can sometimes be as detrimental as they are helpful. What do you think about that?
Yeah, and it's interesting, the whole, tell yourself a story thing, because it's funny, I am a storyteller. I'm a master storyteller in, that lineage, and what I do is share stories to initiate healing in others. And I really learned that, and it's probably why I don't share much of my past, except for in the context of where I was to where I've gotten to. And it's about that, not becoming attached to your story. So, I mean, I could have wallowed, and I did wallow before I dealt with it, let's be clear. In all the suffering and all the agony, I could have basically defended any action I ever took in my life and said, well, you know what? I was kidnapped when I was 2.5. I was raped. I was this. I was that. Right? I could have used it as an excuse and told myself that, oh, it's okay because you have this story to to basically excuse you from whatever you want to do. And really understanding that, yeah, the story part of it is our minds, and recognizing that we are human, and being just so loving and kind to ourselves in our human condition, because we can go through anything at any time, and really accepting that emotions and things like that are part of this experience. Every single piece of the journey is spiritual. So accepting that is really, it gets rid of the story.
That's a good point. That is, and I hadn't really, that's an interesting kind of, looking at it from another angle. How many of us out there are not living up to our full potential because we are comfortable in our excuses? And your excuse was vast. You're right. You could have justified anything because of what happened to you. But to be able to walk past that and come to the understanding on it. So we are now 2 minutes over, but I think everybody's okay with it because the stream is still going. And Cheryl Deuce is out there asking everybody if they're willing. So I think we've got a lot of willing participants out there, and that's so fun. Thanks, Cheryl. And Katrina is saying, great point about people. Oh, that's right. I've got another. I'm always forgetting the eyeball. She's saying, great point about people expecting a certain answer for reassurance rather than being willing to dig into the insides of their own clarity. Andrea, you can only be honest and objective and let others absorb what they can and make personal. That's true.
Absolutely.
What we think doesn't have to be who we are. And it's just, there's a saying that I love, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. And so it's all a matter of perspective. But like I said, we are going to have you back, and maybe next time do it as an hour show and just tell everybody in the trailer that we're going to talk a little longer, because I think there's more on the path that needs to be explored. And I so loved you having you as a guest. Every Wednesday, 2 o'clock, Healthy You gets together and shares paths. And Wayne is our guest for next week because he's getting ready to do a huge project on sustainability and helping the planet heal some of its suffering. So we kind of switching from the inside to the dirt and the outside, and that's what next week is. But I'll let you close us out with, what is your call to action for people to take that first step? How do they get a hold of you if they want to talk more about this, and what can they start getting ready for themselves?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Thank you, Tracy. So you can connect with me on my website, which is shortcutstospirituality.com, and all of my social media icons are along the upper right as well as the bottom right. So you can connect with me in any of those ways there. And if you're really ready to drop suffering and recognize that your life isn't where you want it to be, and I would just also say that suffering it can be also the comfortable life. So everything's okay, but you're not truly living. You're not truly filled with joy, and you don't wake up with passion and want to, change the world. That can also be a sign of suffering. So if you really want to make deep foundational shifts and really learn how to shift your perspective and bring any of that subconscious stuff up, I would definitely welcome the conversation. Shortcut coaching is extremely limited because of the way we hold the container in the space. So there's literally only 4 spots a month. So if it's something you're thinking of, it's definitely worth starting the conversation, because there's also the 1-month prep. So that has to happen before you can go to the weekend intensive. So really, just start the conversation and see if it's something that's calling to you, and really would love to help you and help you heal and see you go forth in the world and just shine your bright light everywhere. So thank you so much. Thanks for having me, Tracy.
You're welcome. And I don't know why you didn't mention it, but she has a fantastic podcast. What is it, the second, third, and fifth Tuesdays?
It's the first, third, and fifth Tuesday. Yeah.
Thank God for Google notifications, right?
But you can find it on my website too under the radio tab. So everything's there, pretty much one-stop shopping. You can find anything there. And yeah, I would love to have you. My podcast is Shortcuts to Spirituality as well on CTR Network. So
Very
yeah.
cool. And before we go, look at who just popped in, Wingman Extraordinaire. Hi if you can.
Yay.
Oh, I just noticed my internet speed picked up, and I thought, I wonder if you're finished, and you haven't. And I thought, I'll just pop on and say, I'm so sorry. And there's been amazing comments coming through the audience. I've been listening on my phone, and I've been following the comments coming through. So there's really great support out there. So thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been amazing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we'll find a way to get to the questions too, Tracy. We can, maybe figure out the feed somehow or whatever, so we can make sure people get their questions answered.
Yeah, we'll pop in there and go through them, because there's so many that I didn't cover. Wow, Wingman, I just that whole eyeball thing really confused me. So, but no worries, we handled it. We're all in such a happy, healing place. It's just a conversation to, yes, let our joy shine through.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm going to talk forever, so I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye, because we're 7 minutes over. And next time you're here, which I think I've got July opened, I'm going to get you slated in there really, really quick before I lose you. And maybe just start broadcasting. It's going to be an hour, because we need more time to delve into this. And with that, healthy You Wednesday to everybody, and share this around. It was a fantastic conversation. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye. Thanks. Bye.